Welcome, 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 everyone. This is I am Stacey Thomas, and you are watching the Stacey Thomas Unrestricted Unlimited Talk Show. For those of you that are new, unrestricted and unlimited simply means don't put me or my guests in a box. God gave that to me. I believe it's because we all have yet to see all that God has for us. And the way things are going for me and for the ones that I'm interviewing, looks like it's going to be an exciting journey. And today I have with me author, inspirational speaker, a man with a powerful story out of Atlanta, Georgia. His name is Brian Anderson. So I'm looking forward to being motivated and inspired. Welcome. Let's welcome him to the show.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Hey, Stacey, how you doing?
Fine, Mr. Anderson. How are you, sir?
Doing wonderful. I'm blessed. I'm sitting here about the bus. I'm looking forward to what the Holy Spirit is going to do on this line this afternoon.
I'm looking forward to hearing your story. I said I had to tell you how I came across you. So I have a friend, Dr. William Flip Clay, up in Maryland, and he was sharing a book. The book was Men in Health, Let's Talk About It. And I immediately saw it. And because I communicate with him about, what he does for young men, I said, I'm going to get the book. I'm going to read the book. Mr. Anderson, immediately, I'm reading the book. It has my attention. And I run across Brian Anderson's story. And Mr. Anderson, I love words. I'm an emotional person, but not just anything gets me emotional. You are an awesome writer. I did not need 50 pages to get your message, to understand that you have a message that needs to be shared. My question for you is, before we even do anything, because I've read the story, why do you smile? Why, when I look at Facebook, you're always smiling? Not that I'm hating on you and wondering what's he smiling about, but in all honesty, for what we're going to talk about, why do you smile?
Why do I smile? That is a great question. I don't believe anyone has ever asked me that question before. Here's why I smile. Certain people believe in the God of their understanding, and certain people know in the God of their understanding. Let me share the difference real quick. I believe, and once again, all beliefs can be debated. I believe that God, this God of ours, stepped out on nothing one day and said, let there be. And there was. I believe that, but I wasn't there. I believe that this God that we talk about, that we worship, led the children of, helped a man named Moses lead the children of Israel out of captivity. I believe that, but I wasn't there. I believe it with everything in me. Those are a couple of things that I believe. Here's what I know for sure that makes me smile. I know for sure that that same God stepped into a back of an ambulance with a half-dead person in it and told death to bow down. I know that for sure. Do you know how I know that for sure? And then why I can smile? Because I was there. That was me. I know that for sure. The reason why I can smile, I know that same God stepped into a jail cell on 3 different occasions with all kind of chaos going on and said, peace, be still. Do you know how I know that for sure and why I can smile today? Because I was there. There's a difference between believing something and knowing for sure. I know that the God of my understanding was there for me. I know that the God of my understanding pulled me out, literally out of the hell's fire. I know that. The definition of to know is to have an intimate relationship with. Man, I've had an intimate relationship with the God of my understanding. Man, that makes me smile. So that when trials come, when a pandemic comes, when a racial riots come, man, I'll get on the air and give a word of inspiration and have a smile on my face because I know it for sure.
I love it. And that was going to be one of my questions in your writing. I saw and I read it twice. You said there is a difference in believing and knowing. So one more time for me, what is the difference between believing and knowing?
Believing. We have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of religions. And every one of them believe that they are the right religion in the name of God. They believe, but all beliefs can be debated. All beliefs, you study something and you believe it, but you don't have factual evidence. See, in order to have factual evidence, you would have to been there from the beginning. Everything that I've ever been through, God was there in the middle of it with me. So I know that can't be debated. What I know cannot be debated because I was there. I was a witness. I was a witness to it. I experienced it for myself. That's the difference between believing something and knowing. All beliefs can be debated, but what you know, you just know, baby. That cannot be debated. That can't be debated.
What you know, you just know.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your title today? Before I go back, what's your title today? What are you
I have
doing?
several titles, and I'm proud of them all. I'm an administrator for peer support services at Behavior Health Link. I'm a certified peer specialist. I'm a certified recovery educator. I'm a certified mental health first aid trainer. I'm a certified RAP facilitator. I can go on about my certifications. But what I love to leave the audience with about Brian Keith Anderson is that Brian Keith Anderson is a mountain climber. That's the title that I love to leave with the audience. I'm a mountain climber. And I'm going to leave at the end of our presentation. I'm going to share with you the parable of the mountain climber. But that's the titles that I have. But the most important one that I share with every audience, man, Brian Anderson is a mountain climber. Been through some things, had to climb some mighty mountains, and he made it.
And I love, and I'm not going to tell what's in the book. I want the viewers to get the book. But I truly love what you said about the mountain climber when it was time to meet Gabriel. I'm wishing you the best. Look, I'm telling you what I usually say at the end, but I'm excited.
Yes,
So let's go back, because in your book, you mentioned that there are 10,000 other people with a story like yours. If there are 10,000 other people with a story like yours, unfortunately, I'm assuming everybody's not surviving. Mr. Anderson, you said you were homeless with your siblings and your father. How old were you?
5 years old when my father first took. I was 5, my other brother was 7, and my other brother was 9 when my father first took us on this journey. We did not know that it was going to be a sojourn like it was. My mother and my father, as couples do back in those days, were going through their hard times. And my father went to my mother and said, listen, I'm going to take the boys and we're going to go on this religious retreat. Now, there was nothing strange about this request because the whole family would go every year. But now that my mother and my father were at odds with each other and there was turmoil in the home, he said, I'm just going to take the boys and we're going to go for 2 weeks and maybe everything will calm down. And when we come back, everything will be fine. But what we did not know is my father had other plans. So my mother went out and bought us shorts and sandals and slippers. And we thought we were going to be gone for 2 weeks and we're going to come back and everything was going to be fine. Once again, I was 5 years old. And little did we know that my father's plan was to move us from Jersey City, New Jersey, all the way across country to Seattle, Washington, never to be seen or heard from again. But we did not make it to Seattle, Washington. You see, we ran out of gas and money in Elyria, Ohio. Now we're homeless. I'm 5 years old. I'm sleeping in the back of a car, wondering, where's mama? Wondering what's going on, wondering why are we eating like we used to? Yeah, we lived in the projects of Curry Woods, New Jersey, but we had something to eat. Yeah, we lived in the projects, but we had pajamas to put on at night. But now we're sleeping in the back of a car and with no food half the time, and mama's not coming, and we're wondering what's going on. And periodically a family would allow us to sleep on their floor. But like clockwork, a couple of days later, we would be right back out in the car, homeless again and hungry again and not knowing what's going on in our lives.
I know at 5 years old, well, I'm not going to say a 5-year-old doesn't know much because 5-year-olds are very curious. Did anyone ever ask your father what was going on? Where was your mother?
I can't remember that conversation ever happening. There was such trauma that had taken place before that and during that time that we were like pretty much lost in space. Something started to happen in that young mind of mine. That's where early on my mental illness took effect. Something started to develop and I started to go inward. I started to be an introvert. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to speak up. I had no voice. So I just kept it and I held everything in. And man, that, like we say, pressure burst pipes. And my goodness, as a young boy at the age of 5, my life took a turn, a dramatic turn, and trauma just took over my life.
So when Mr. Anderson, I assume when you say you finally started school, well, no, let me back up. You mentioned something, when someone has to use other things other than a blanket to cover themselves to sleep. You said you didn't always sleep with a blanket over you.
Absolutely right. By the age of 8 or 9, between the ages of 8 and 10 or 11 years old, my father decided to get out of Elyria and move to Huntsville, Alabama. He wanted to become a preacher. So there was a Black Institute, a college down there that trained preachers. So we ended up in Huntsville, Alabama. Once again, we knew no one there. This had been 3 or 4 years of being homeless and sleeping, in cars and in abandoned shelters and things like that. So all that time, all that trauma went by, and now we're in Huntsville. We don't know anyone. We're homeless again. It's the dead of winter. My father found this abandoned trailer on the side of the road of Jordan Lane, where Jordan Lane and Maston Lake intersects, for those of you that are in Huntsville. And it was abandoned trailer, no heat, no running water, no electricity. And in this abandoned trailer, there was a huge hole in the floor. The only thing that was inside of this abandoned trailer was a box spring and a mattress. So at night, my father would lay us all down on the box spring, and he would pull that dirty, filthy mattress on top of us all so that we wouldn't freeze to death at night. That was our plight. That was our plight for that winter. In an abandoned trailer with a hole in the floor, no heat, no running water, no electricity, and a mattress for a blanket.
And I guess even while you're doing this, your father's, and not to talk bad about your father, sir, but I guess in your father's mind, he had a goal. He was working toward a goal. So, and for some people, we do what we have to do to reach that goal, huh?
Listen, my father was my hero. He passed away 2016. My heart still breaks to
Yes.
see my father gone from us. But back in those days, and I got to tell the story, my father was a good-looking man. I mean, he was a drop-dead gorgeous man, and all the women went crazy. And back in those days, man, it was easy for a father to leave his boys with the mother, or anybody, any
Yes.
children with the mother, and go on about his way and live the life of Riley, single, good looking. I'm going to rip the world apart. My dad said, I'm going to take my boys, and come hell or high water, we're going to be together. We're going to get through this thing together.
Wow. Wow. It's Huntsville, Alabama, where you started school. Did he enter the school to preach?
He entered the school, and once again he got us in. They had an elementary on that campus. They had a high school on that campus, and somehow years went by and he got us into those schools. But like, if you don't pay your tuition, the teacher would come and tell you you got to leave class, and that happened to us often. My father, we were just living by the skin of our teeth, quote unquote, and often we were put out of the school. But my father, he's trugged and he trugged and he trugged. So years went by. It took up to my age of 16, from the ages of 8, 9, 10, 11, when we first got there, to the age of 16. It took my father. My father graduated from that school. He became a minister. And at the age of 16, his first district was in Gastonia, North Carolina. And that's when my father started his ministry.
Yes, sir. Doing this, I want to make sure people understand that your life, and you saying that you were a mountain climber, you didn't go across one hill, you didn't go across two hills. So in this time frame, when did the molestation take place?
That there was, like I told you all, there were several families that would take us in off of the road periodically. We would get a chance to stay with this family for a couple of nights and that family. Well, between the ages of 7 and 8 years old, I thought we lucked up because there was a family that was willing to take us in for a long extended period of time. And even though I was still yearning for my mother, I didn't want to be homeless anymore. So, and even though it was a little shack of a home, it was a 4 walls and a roof, something that we didn't have. So this family was willing to take us in, and this family that took us in had an older daughter, and I'm 7 or 8 years old at this time. She had to be maybe 12 or 13 or even older at the time. She took a liking to me, and she took such a liking to me that she started touching me inappropriately, and then she started molesting me. And all I can remember from those scenes was the pain of it all. There was no pleasure there of it all. Some people would say, man, you a dude, this older girl. No, no, no. There was pain associated with it. And I had a choice at that young age. I said, man, if I go tell Pop, we're going to be homeless again. So I'm just going to take it. I'm not going to say anything about it. And man, that something broke. I can truly say that we were homeless and hungry for a couple of years before that, and something started to go wrong in my mind, but literally something broke then, the molestation. Man, at that young age, man, that did something to me. Something truly broke inside then.
What you said, you felt like, if you needed somewhere to live, you didn't want to mess that up. So many people go through that now, Mr. Anderson. And now when you look back, sir, when you look back, do you wish you would have told, would anything have been different in your life?
There's a beautiful thing about the work that I do today, sis, and I'm going to share with you this. There's a statement that we use: nothing is wasted in a transformed life. Hear me clearly. Nothing is wasted in a transformed life. And that goes back to that scripture, all things, what is that scripture that says, all things work for the good for them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So everything, check this out, everything that I've been through, the homelessness, the molestation, the drug addiction, the 3 times jail, the 2 suicide attempts, I'm helping people that are going through those exact same things by sharing my story of hope. My God, how powerful is that?
They say in order to, it's like they say, some people say we won't pay attention or we won't realize our blessing until we go through something. And we won't really learn anything if there's never a testimony.
That's right. That's right. There can be no testimony without a test.
Yes, sir.
No testimony without a test. Yeah.
So you're homeless. You answered my question, because I did wonder, where's the mother? Because a lot of times, like you said, the mother keeps the children. So your father was a man that loved his boys.
He loved his boys, yes.
So you have homelessness and you have molestation. And in school, a kid that's homeless or barely making it, kids can be mean. And can you tell us, why were they mean and what did they say?
Listen, once again, we didn't have the monies to buy the deodorants and the soaps and the toothpaste and things like that. So not only, and I had suffered so much trauma in my life that I developed a learning disorder as a result of being homeless, as a result of being taken away from mama at such an early age, as the result of the molestation. Man, something went wrong in my mind and my learning suffered. So now I'm not only the smelly kid in class because we didn't have the deodorants and the soap, I am the dumb kid in class. And we all know, all of us have been struck by the kids can be some of the cruelest people at times. And that was the plight that I had to live at the time. The smelly kid, the kid that didn't eat like everybody else. I remember we were so poor at a point in time that my father would get a couple of jars of baby food and get a loaf of bread, and that would be our lunch. Baby food, smothered on some bread. And that would be our lunch. And our kids back in those days, they would trade sandwiches and, oh, what do you got for lunch? And what do you got for lunch? And I had to hold my baby food sandwich to the side because I'm already getting teased. I'm already getting ridiculed. And now I got a baby food sandwich. But we had to do what we had to do. So yeah, that took a toll on my self-confidence. I hated myself at this time. I loathed even looking at the mirror because through my formative years, so much trauma had taken place that I was literally broken.
Yes, sir. So then what came first? Mental illness or drug addiction?
The mental illness at such an early age. Like I said, by the time I was 16, my father became a minister. By the time I was 17, he sent me off to this Christian academy. And now I hadn't touched drugs by then at all. I knew that I was messed up in the mind. I knew that I was different from everybody. So now I'm being sent to this Christian academy because my father wanted the best for me. I got there and everybody seemed like everything was beautiful and everybody was normal, and quote unquote, to me. And I suffered deeply social phobias and things like that. And I used to notice some of the guys would go around the building and they would come back laughing and joking and smiling. And I yearned for that. So one day I got up enough courage to ask, can I go with them? And that was the first time on this Christian Academy campus I first tasted drugs. And man, when I tell you that first hit of drugs, man, it seemed like all of the trauma, all of the anguish melted away for that space and time. And man, the feeling that came over me, because I had suffered so long at such an early age, and now this feeling of euphoria is rushing over me. So the more I used, the more I wanted and needed, and the more I needed, the more I used. And somehow I got out of that school. I graduated at 18 the next year because I went there in the junior year and senior year. Somehow I graduated, but by the time I graduated, I was needing those drugs just to maintain. I was searching for them on a daily basis just to keep it together.
I've been told by people, a gifted person, a very intelligent, gifted individual told me one time, he said that he dealt with depression. And with the depression, he smoked weed because it helped. It's sad we've got too many people being addicted to drugs, and they could get help. Well, there's help, but everybody's not talking about how to get help, Mr. Anderson. People will know something. People will see something's wrong with somebody. They'll talk about you for being an addict, but they won't offer to help you find help to stop being an addict.
Right.
So you're an addict, you're dealing with mental illness. What made you, well, I know because I read the story. What happened to make you say enough is enough?
I was done with this thing called life. I had messed up so much in my lifetime that I did not see hope. Once again, I did not see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now my mother came to my graduation from Jersey, and my father came to my graduation from down south, and they met there, and a little tug of war took place. My mother wanted me back to Jersey, and my daddy wanted me to go back down south with him. And I had not spent a lot of time living with my mother, unknowing my mother, because once again, I had been taken away at such an early age. I decided to go live with my mother. I wanted to know her. Hopefully this was the missing link to everything that went wrong in my life. And it was a mistake that I made because in 1984, the year that I graduated, the streets of Jersey City, New Jersey was littered with more potent drugs than I had ever experienced with at that Christian academy. So by the time I got there, me and my mother did not click at all because we once again didn't really know each other. I'm her baby boy at the time. I got a younger brother now, but I'm her baby boy at the time. And so we didn't know each other, and man, we did not mesh. I'm a drug addict on top of me and my mother not meshing. So I'm homeless again. Here I am out of the streets, and I said, I am done. I'm done with this thing called life. Now, the ironic thing about my first suicide attempt is that I had suffered so much pain, so much hurt in my life. I made a decision. I'm not going to go out using a weapon. I associated using a weapon with more pain. I didn't want to live this life in pain and go out in pain. Man, I got this vice now that makes me feel good. I'm going to get an assortment of drugs, and I'm going to take it at a rapid pace, and I'm going to go out as high as I can and let my heart just explode because I'm going to take so much of this drug. I wanted to go out as high, feeling good, and just let my heart just explode. And that would be the end of me.
You didn't make it?
Yeah, thank God.
I mean, I'm not trying to crack a joke. I'm just like, you didn't make it. Did you not see? You said multiple attempts. You didn't make it. So did you not see it wasn't meant for you?
No.
And I don't mean, I'm smiling because you're really touching my heart. When people go through this and they try things, did it ever hit you? It's more for me.
Never did that occur for me the first time I tried to take my life. Only thing that came to me is, man, I did it wrong. I messed up. Why did I live? Why did I make it? I did it wrong. I know what to do next time. If you get me out of this hospital, I'm going to know what to do next time around. That was all. There was no light nowhere.
Wow. So you were homeless, and did you get it together before you went to jail and something happened, or did you go to jail before?
My dad came up from, I believe it was South Carolina at the time, and to Jersey, scooped me up and brought me back down there with him. And for the first couple of months, everything was fine. But guess who showed up? I did. Still broken, still a drug addict, still undiagnosed with this mental illness. So I started to revert right back to my own ways, and I started to go seek those drugs out again, and started because I needed to feel good. I needed this thing off of me, and now the jail started to happen because now I'm taking chances and I'm doing things that I should not be doing, and I'm out there in the streets literally. I ended up homeless again because my father moved from that place to another district to further his ministry, and I'm stuck there in the streets, homeless again. I worked for a Ford dealership washing their cars on their used car lot, and I would leave the car unlocked so I would have a place to sleep at night. And I would sleep on the back porch of my friends. And now by this time, man, I had lost all my weight. I'm looking like death warmed over. I'm a true drug addict. But here's the miracle of my father. Before my father left that town, he went to one of his preacher buddies in that town. He gave his preacher buddy a set of keys to one of his cars. And he said, listen, man, when my son comes to his senses, give him the keys and send him in my direction. So I spent 6 months on the streets of this town, drugged out, sleeping on back porches, like I said, of my friends, because their folk would not let me inside their home. Everybody in the town knew who I was. I'm in and out of jail now. I'm a drug addict. I look like death warmed over, literally. 6 months came, and I went to that preacher. I said, I'm ready to go to my daddy. I knew that if I could just get close to him, maybe that there was a chance for me to survive this thing. He gave me the keys. He gave me the address. Now, there was no GPS back in them days. There was no phones, cell phones that you could use. God and God alone got me from Conway, South Carolina to Goldsboro, North Carolina. Only God got me there. And I showed up at my father's residence. It was a Saturday morning. I remember it like it was yesterday, hot outside. I made it. I knocked on the door. They were not there. I got back in the car, rolled all down the windows, and passed out, literally passed out because I was so initiated. I had no health with me at all, emaciated, or whatever the word I'm looking for. And only to be awakened hours later by the screams of my little sisters, Chantel and Kim. They were calling my name. They thought I was dead in the car. I literally had passed out.
Wow. And when did you find God or hear from God?
This was in 1989, I believe, that I showed up in Goldsboro. It took until 1995. I was still struggling with an undiagnosed mental illness. I was still a drug addict, but I always worked. And that's when, at this job where I worked at, I ran into that man named Curtis Graham. I write about him in both of my books, Beautiful Scars, My Journey to Wholeness and Healing, and Beautiful Scars 2, The Ripple Effect. Curtis Graham, once again, was a guy that came to work, and he would talk about how he rode his horses on the weekend. He would talk about how him and his wife are building onto their homes. He would talk about how his kids are doing well. So everybody loved to hear Curtis' stories. I wasn't close to Curtis. I would speak, and that would be it. Curtis pulled me to the side one day and told me, look, man, I know what you're going through. I said, wait a minute, man, what are you talking about? We don't even know each other like that. How do you know what I'm going through? He pulled me further away from the clients and the staff there, and he started to share with me his recovery story. For the first time in my life, hope. I've heard about it, but it was like a fairy tale. Some people across the world, but now standing in front of me was this man who had made it through some of the similar things that I'm dealing with. For the first time, I saw hope then.
Wow. When you, you saw hope, which is always a great thing. You went through a lot. I'm glad you survived. A lot of times people say, people don't find hope or know God until something bad happens. I've heard people say that, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
So I, at times, will ask this question of people. When someone says that, because I don't want to be the only, I've got my opinion, but Mr. Anderson, when you're labeled as a drug addict, when you're labeled as a criminal, and then you find God, and you always got those people that are not going to let the past go. They say, oh, he got in trouble, he found God. What do you say to that?
I stopped trying to prove people wrong many years ago, and I started to prove myself right. We're not going to prove everybody wrong. So we need to get that out of our vocabulary, get that out of our mind. Stop trying to prove people wrong and start proving yourself right. After meeting Curtis Graham, it was still a struggle. Hear me clearly. And I ended up facing jail again because I had stolen from that job that we were on. So I am now facing a long-term jail sentence or lockdown inpatient treatment. Curtis Graham convinced me to go to this long-term. And not only did he convince me, but he drove me the 2 hours away to Lumberton, North Carolina, to this lockdown inpatient treatment. I'm getting to your answer. When I got there, I still didn't believe. I'm in here. I'm gonna show these people that I don't belong in this place. I'm gonna show them all. So it was a co-ed facility. Pretty women were there getting treatment. I said, I'm gonna show these people I don't belong. I'm gonna show everybody I'm better than them. So I spent the first 2 weeks womanizing, going from room to room. I'm showing them, yeah, I don't belong. I'm bad. I'm Brian Anderson. They got the wrong person in here. Going from room to room, womanizing, right? Something happened that second week. I had an appointment with the doctor that was there. And the doctor sat me down and told me, Mr. Anderson, I want to share with you our findings. You have been suffering from a clinical depression for years. You have been suffering from addictive disease. These are mental illnesses. Blew my mind. I said, wait a minute, man. I don't have a mental illness. We don't do that in my community. What are you talking about? A mental illness? And he told me that as a result of everything that I had been through trauma-wise, I had suffered from this mental illness at such an early age for such a long time. That's why he said something happened. Then I got it. For years, everyone was asking me, man, what's wrong with you? Man, what's your problem? And I would share with them, well, I'm a drug addict, man. I ruined all the relationships with my family members, man. I'm in and out of jail, man. That's what's wrong with me. That's the problem. No one ever asked me, what happened to you?
Whew. Do you think between the mental illness and the different things you went through, you brought up womanizing? And I know a lot of times when people do things as adults, sometimes people say, well, it has something to do with what happened in their life. The molestation, even though you didn't enjoy it, did that contribute to the womanizing?
I know for a fact that did, and if I can share this with you, I know for a fact that I had been through in and out of relationships, even though when I was a drug addict, in and out of relationship, never wanted to get nobody any close to me for a long period of time. So when I got clean and sober in 1995, and I started on this journey to recovery, and I started to be asked to speak all over the country, so I'm in this field of mental health and addiction disease, and people starting to know my name. It was around 2003. My brother found this family that took us in when we were younger. And man, when he found them, we all got on the phone and we started talking and laughing and joking. And it was so good to hear everybody's voice and to know everybody was fine. The next day, she called me by herself. Once again, I had been in the field. Yeah. I had been in the field of mental health for years. I had given this message of hope and recovery for years. So she calls me and we're on the phone and we're talking, we're having a great conversation. And then she says this, she says, do you remember when we used to? Then my hand started to shake like this. Mr. Motivator, Mr. Encourager's hand started to shake like this. Mr. I'm gonna heal the world's hand started to shake like this. I said, wait a minute. No. We didn't do that. You did that to me. Man, I got a chance to release that thing from whence it came. And I learned many years ago, if we don't visit the trauma, the broken place, if we don't get a chance to visit the broken place, we will carry these things subconsciously for the rest of our lives. Once again, I'm Mr. Motivator now, but my hand is like this only when she brought up the topic.
Did you think, or you never thought about it, did you think she still had some kind of effect on you?
When that topic came up and I knew that I had not visited that broken place, my father, no one had known. I did not tell my brothers. I did not tell my sisters. I did not tell my mother. I did not tell my dad all of these years later. And when that incident happened, I was literally set free. I'm telling everybody that's listening, if you don't visit the broken place, you will never be set free.
When you say if you never visit the broken place, there's some people that can visit the broken place and you might get that conversation, get that chance to say what it is that's hurting you, right? Mm-hmm. You may even get a response from the person that hurt you. But what do you say to the people that say, I've tried, but I can't get a reply? I can't get past this because the other party won't be a part of the conversation.
Here's the thing. You're not going to them for a reply. You're not going to them to have them say, oh, I'm sorry I did that to you. You're not going to them to have them apologize to you at all. You're going to them to just take it out of you and put it back on from whence it came. That's it. That's the mistake that most people do. They're looking for an apology. They're looking for a response. No. You go and you throw it up, get it out of your gut and throw it up and put it back on the feet from whence it came. You don't want no apology. All you need to do is throw it up. And here's the thing that happens with people that their attacker or their abuser have died. There's a way to still get through it. While I was in treatment, they did this exercise. They told us to write down every trauma that we had ever experienced in our lifetime. And then they had this ceremony where you would stand before this open flame and you would page by page, put it in the fire. And the only advice that the doctor would give everybody is just remember the smoke. Remember the smoke. So here's the thing. Every page, there's a puff of smoke that would go up in the atmosphere and disappear. Then the next page, a puff of smoke would go up in the atmosphere and disappear. Now, so that when those things come up in the future, and they will, remember the smoke. Remember how it disappeared and it's gone now. You wrote that thing down. There's something that happens when we write stuff down. You're literally making a contract with yourself when you write it down. And when you see that thing evaporate and disappear in the atmosphere, remember the smoke.
Wow. Wow. It's been great, Mr. Anderson.
It has been. It has been.
And you said you were going to tell us about the mountain climber before we end this. Who's the mountain climber?
The mountain climber is every person, not just myself, but every person that has been through anything, so any type of trauma, any type of damage in their lifetime. Let me share with you the parable, and I end with this, the parable of the mountain climber. There was a preacher, a doctor, and a mountain climber showed up at the gates of heaven. And Gabriel was standing there with a bag filled with wings. The preacher walks before Gabriel. Gabriel reaches into the bag of wings. Gabriel pulls out 2 wings. Gabriel pins the 2 wings on the back of the preacher. Gabriel says, now perform for me and prove to me that you're worthy to walk through the gate. That preacher started flapping both of his wings. That preacher takes off into the air, does a beautiful spin, comes down and lands. Gabriel says, enter thou in, for you have proven yourself worthy to walk through the gate. The doctor walks before Gabriel. Gabriel reaches into the bag of wings. Gabriel pulls out 2 wings. Gabriel pins the 2 wings on the back of the doctor. Gabriel says, now perform for me and prove to me that you're worthy to walk through the gate. That doctor started flapping both of his wings. That doctor takes off into the air, does a beautiful spin, comes down and lands. Gabriel says, enter thou in, for you have proven yourself worthy to walk through the gate. The mountain climber, person like myself, walks before Gabriel. Gabriel reaches into the bag of wings. Gabriel pulls out one wing. Gabriel pins that one wing on the back of that mountain climber. Gabriel says, now perform for me and prove to me that you're worthy to walk through the gate. Just then, every mountain that mountain climber had to climb in his lifetime comes rushing back to his memory. That mountain climber started flapping that one wing. And that mountain climber taxis to the beginning of that runway. And that mountain climber flaps that one wing some more. And that mountain climber taxis down that runway and he shoots up into the air and he does a spin and a turn and a flip and some somersaults and some more spins and some more turns and some more somersaults. Just then an angel walks before Gabriel and says, Gabriel, who in the heavens is that? Gabriel says, oh, there, that's the mountain climber showing you what can be done with half the chance. So the next time somebody walks up to me and say, hey, bro, what you doing with a smile on your face? What are you doing thinking that you have a word of encouragement to give to people? Wasn't you a drug addict? Wasn't you diagnosed with a mental illness? I shrug my shoulders back. I look them dead in the eye and I say, one wing, baby, one wing.
One wing. Excuse me, Mr. Anderson.
Amen.
One wing.
One wing, baby, one wing.
I love it. I love it. Mr. Anderson, I know you're down in Atlanta, and I'm not sure if you can help anyone that's in Virginia. But if someone needed to contact you, sir, or find out what it is that you could do to help them, how would they reach you?
Easily. I'm going to give you all my contact. I don't believe in wasting any of these moments where we can share the good news of what God is doing.
Okay.
You can go to my website, www.beautiful-scars.
Oh, there's a dash in? Okay.
Yes, in between. www.beautiful-scars.org. You can go, you'll visit my website. There's a tab up in the, I think in the right-hand corner. You go to that tab and the tables will come down. You can visit all the pages that's on that, on that website. You can call me 706-231-9588. Once again, 706-231-9588. You can email me. 706-231-9588.
Okay, thank you.
You can email me, beautifulscars65@yahoo.com. So once again, I'm going to run through all of those right quick because I don't believe I believe every person out there is a child of God, and it's our responsibility to assist in any way that we can. Once again, www.beautiful-scars.org. Telephone number 706-231-9588. Email address, beautifulscars65@yahoo.com.
Okay, and if they want your book or books?
If you go to my website, they're on there, but I'm going to share it for those that won't go to the website. My first book is named Beautiful Scars, My Journey to Wholeness and Healing by Brian Anderson. Once again, Beautiful Scars, My Journey to Wholeness and Healing by Brian Anderson. That's the first book. Second book, Beautiful Scars 2, The Ripple Effect. Beautiful Scars 2, The Ripple Effect. And the third book that I co-authored with a bunch of amazing men under the leadership of Vanessa Anderson Abram is Men and Mental Health Anthology. Men and Mental Health Anthology. I will have them books on hand. You all can call me, email me, text me, and I can send them out to you. And that was a Amazon #1 bestseller. That doggone thing is hot.
And I have I've not completed the book, the anthology. However, I will say for the viewers that it is a book that should be read. And for those that know someone that suffers with any of these illnesses or issues, get the book, read the book, contact Mr. Anderson. If you can't reach Mr. Anderson, send me an inbox. I'll find him.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. We fam for life now.
I'm wishing you the very best. Keep doing
Thank you,
what
sir.
you're doing. I'm not going to forget that story of the mountain climber. All
One
right.
wing, baby. One wing.
Yes, sir. Take care of yourself.
God bless you, sis. Much
Thank
success
you.
to you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Whew, another powerful interview. Another powerful interview. Please do check out Brian Anderson. He is on Facebook. Please check out the anthology that he's a part of, Men and Mental Health. Let's talk about it. And then I have his books on the screen that you can do. For those of you that have watched, thank you. Thank you. Please share this interview. Please head over to my YouTube channel. Check out the other powerful interviews. And remember, don't stress too much about yesterday. Don't worry too much about tomorrow. If you do, you just might miss living today. Have a great one.